There's a bloodthirsty, cruel, dictatorial organization. They're beheading innocent people, killing women and children, kidnapping babies, running drugs, smuggling guns, and poisoning civilians. Who are they? It's not ISIS. And this problem isn't halfway around the world in the Middle East. No, it's the Mexican drug cartels, plural. And they're operating with impunity just miles away from the American border. They're waging war inside their own country, turning their streets into murder scenes and massacring their own people. And they're also waging war on our country, as every single day Americans are killed courtesy of the Mexican cartels. They're proving to be an international threat, especially through one of the most lucrative products, fentanyl. Just a microgram could kill you. Fentanyl overdoses are the #1 cause of death among Americans age 18 to 45, not COVID-19. In 1 year, nearly 80,000 people died from opioid ODs, primarily fentanyl. That's over 25 times the deaths from 9/11. Think about that. And every life taken leaves families in shambles, like the Stroh family in Oregon. Their 25-year-old son, Keaton, a former Marine, took one pill he thought was Oxy, and it wasn't, and he died.
I remember walking up those stairs, and I just had that dread of, he's not answering when I call his name. I went to touch him and he was so cold. And he was clutching his heart.
So why is our government letting cartels control our border and kill our people? Our neighbors to the south are nearly a narco state, and the cartels rule through terror. Cartels control all the major states in Mexico, as you can see here, and drugs flow freely throughout the whole country, always moving north towards the United States. That's why the majority of the cartel's strength is right on our border in the state of Chihuahua. And the cartel turf wars are raging. Mexico doesn't really have a centralized government. Mexico is made up of fiefdoms run by rich ranchers. And these ranchers put in their puppet as president, President Obrador, whose cartel strategy is, I'm not joking, as Joe would say, is hugs, not bullets. Think about that. Hugs, not bullets. Obrador is owned by the cartels, and the Mexican military is a rogue power center. Mexico's defense ministry was just hacked and exposed for spying on journalists who report on drugs and corruption. Oh, and also the Mexican military massacres civilians, so there's that. When there's no one to stop you, you can do what you want. So you have the Sinaloa cartel, once run by El Chapo, doing whatever it wants. And what does it want? Money and power. How does it get it? Murder.
Un fuerte enfrentamiento en estos momentos. Desconocemos cuántos muertos. Hay una fuerte balacera en esta.
Then there's the Jalisco New Generation cartel, which is known for murdering their enemies and hanging them from bridges to try to assert their dominance. They have no respect for the Mexican military. Just last week, they tried to kidnap a tequila distillery owner in Zapopan. And when it went sideways, they lit up the Mexican soldiers outside of a shopping mall.
5, 4.
I mean, that's not small arms fire. This happens daily in Mexico. There's other cartels, too, all battling for supremacy, like Los Zetas or the Gulf Cartel. And they all try to expand their own caliphates, if you can call them that, and then traffic narcotics through the arteries all over the United States. China ships the synthetics to Mexico. The cartels cook them up in their labs, and then they push it north, killing Americans in every state. And it's not just drugs. The Mexican cartels have found a new industry that's even more profitable: human trafficking. In 2018, the cartels made $500 million smuggling humans across. That number has skyrocketed to $13 billion this year. They put migrants into trucks, subject them to dangerous and disgusting conditions, and then force thousands of them into debt bondage if they can't pay up front. And that way, they have control over people for decades. These human smugglers are ruthless and absolutely nuts.
You're going to close the door. You stay right there before we move. Hey, calm down. Hey, calm down. Calm down. Calm down.
Calm down.
Back up. Back up. Get your foot back in there. Get your foot back in there. Get your foot back in there. Ma'am, we're gonna have to tase you. You're not
I
gonna
don't
like that.
understand what you're telling me.
This woman was stopped in Carrizo Springs, Texas, with a group of migrants she was smuggling in, and it's not just the illegals who are in danger, but Border Patrol, obviously, and everybody in our southern border states. So where's the federal government? Why are Europe's borders more important than ours? Back in 2019, Trump threatened to designate the cartels as terrorist organizations, but ended up holding off on that. He used that threat as leverage to make the Mexican president fight the cartels and stop the caravans. And guess what? It worked. Drug smuggling and migrant flows went down, but now they're shattering records under Joe Biden. If Joe Biden designates the cartels terrorist organizations, which they are if you look at their tactics and death toll, the Treasury Department is able to freeze their assets and seize their bank accounts. We know Prime Minister Blackface did it in Canada to the truckers, remember in February, when he invoked the Emergencies Act and started clipping their bank accounts. He had banks freezing truckers' checking accounts, and Joe Biden applauded that. Now, if you can get your bank accounts frozen for protesting in North America, why can't you get your bank accounts frozen for war crimes? We know Joe's been seizing Russian yachts, putting sanctions on prominent Russians and their families, so why isn't he going after the cartel profits? Why isn't he targeting cartel leaders? And if he designates cartels as terror groups, that means he could let our military loose on their compounds. If these cartels were Muslim fanatics doing the exact same thing that they're doing in Mexico, Biden would have droned them to death and confiscated all their cash by now. Is Biden not targeting cartel bank accounts because some powerful Americans use the same offshore banks? Seems like something the media might be curious about. The cartels are waging a war on America, and Joe Biden hasn't just surrendered. He doesn't even know we're at war. The United States needs to militarize our posture towards Mexican drug cartels, just like we would do against terrorists. Because every day we don't do anything, more Americans die and the cartels grow more powerful. And state and local governments are left to fend for themselves.